This question is long, there's a long story, but we're turning it into an equation. My advice is don't try to do it all at once. Don't try to do it in your head. Break it down piece by piece. So let's take a look at the story, and I'll kind of tell you what I would do as I'm going through. So a factory makes 9-inch, 7-inch, and 4-inch concrete screws. Okay, got it. There's 3 different things. During a certain day, the number of 9-inch concrete screws that the factory makes is 5 times the number n of 7-inch concrete screws. So that's a complicated sentence, but I'm not going to worry about it yet. Let's just get more information. And the number of 4-inch concrete screws is 22. Well, that's an easy sentence, so that's fine. During this day, the factory makes 100 concrete screws total, which equation represents this situation. So we don't need to solve for n, so let's not bother with that. But we do need to think about 3 different things, and so I don't confuse my variables. Let's just call this type A, type B, and type C. Now on my scratch, I might do something like A plus B plus C is 100, right? Because that's the total. And you can kind of keep track of it. The A is the 9s, the B is the 7s, and the C is the 4s. But notice I want to kind of anchor it around variables because I don't want to have numbers as the way to describe a thing that I'm going to put an actual number into, right? If I'm plugging in, it's plug points into equations in a way, but I want to have a letter, not another number. It's going to get confusing. I'm too afraid that I'll, pick something maybe like B, which is wrong, but is taking into account the number of the size of the screws when that has nothing to do with the total number of screws. Anyway, moving on, the thing I understood easiest was that the number of 4-inch concrete screws is 22. So that's my C, right? So that's that part. Now, the benefit of breaking it down into these 3 parts, A, B, and C, is I know that I need a thing to represent each part. So I'm not going to, make a mistake and take a shortcut that I shouldn't take. What they tell me, and this is the hard part, is they tell me that there are n 7-inch screws, right? I know that there's more to that particular part of the passage, but the number of 7-inch screws is n, so just plug that in. Then they also tell us that for the 9-inch screws, that number is going to be 5 times the number for the 7-inch screws. So that means here we're going to add in another 5n. So notice the benefit of the 3 parts is I don't lose anything in this process. If I were to lose something, I'd pick choice C because that's got the 5n, but I need the other piece. I need the regular n, and now I can just combine like terms. 6n plus 22 is 100. Just check in with the choices because there's no reason to solve. We could solve that. We could solve that for n, but we don't need to. But there you go. I don't think this is a hard question. The College Board does. But I understand why they classify it as hard. The number of people who are going to pick C here is pretty high. And it's because, for whatever reason, people think writing on their scratch paper slows them down. Well, maybe it does. I only think it costs you a couple seconds here at most. But those seconds are worth it to guarantee a question that you really can't afford to get wrong. There's going to be other stuff that's way more complicated than this. So if you're losing points here, you're basically throwing away easy points. It's going to be tough to stay in the 700s if this is the kind of thing you're getting wrong, because the organizational skills that you require here are going to definitely come in handy when there's way more steps in a problem. Plus, that instinct that there's maybe trouble if you don't write things down is a valuable instinct to have on the SAT. So often, I'm aware of potential dangers, and yes, I might decide to go a little bit slower, but I'm doing it because I'd rather guarantee the points. And I think that being a few seconds slower is worth it for guaranteeing what is a relatively easy question.